Topic 5. Exchange rate systems. Flexible exchange rates. Market efficiency. If exchange rate is flexible, free float, changes in demand of a currency causes changes to the exchange rate. Under a flexible exchange rate system, only the exchange rate needs to change to correct a disequilibrium in a nation's balance of payments. It corrects balance of payments disequilibria smoothly and continuously as they occur. On the other hand, the inability or unwillingness of a nation to adjust the exchange rate, when out of equilibrium under a fixed exchange rate system, is likely to give rise to destabilizing speculation, and eventually force the nation to make a large discrete change in its exchange rate. Flexible exchange rates clearly identify the degree of comparative advantage and disadvantage of the nation in various commodities when these equilibrium exchange rates are translated into domestic prices. On the other hand, fixed exchange rates are often out of equilibrium in the real world. And when this is the case, they distort the pattern of trade, and prevent the most efficient allocation of resources throughout the world. Policy advantages under flexible exchange rates. A flexible exchange rate system also means that the nation need not concern itself with its external balance and is free to utilize all policies at its disposal to achieve its purely domestic goals of full employment with price stability, growth, an equitable distribution of income, and so on. Flexible exchange rates would prevent the government from setting the exchange rate at a level other than equilibrium, in order to benefit one sector of the economy at the expense of another or to achieve some economic objective that could be reached by less costly means. A flexible exchange rate system does not impose the cost of government interventions in the foreign exchange market required to maintain fixed exchange rates. Flexible exchange rates are generally preferred by those, such as Nobel laureate Milton Friedman, who advocate a minimum of government intervention in the economy and a maximum of personal freedom. Fixed exchange rates. Less uncertainty under flexible exchange rates. Fixed exchange rate system is a promise to keep exchange rate unchanged, fixed, usually through governing the creation of money. Hence, commitment to uphold the promise is utmost important for the credibility and subsequently the survival of this exchange rate system. Fixed exchange rate system avoids the wild day-to-day fluctuations that are likely to occur under flexible rates, and that discourage specialization in production and the flow of international trade and investments. Excessive short-run fluctuations in exchange rates under a flexible exchange rate system may be costly in terms of higher frictional unemployment, if they lead to over-frequent attempts at reallocating domestic resources among the various sectors of the economy. The short-run tendency of exchange rates to overshoot their long-run equilibrium level has also been noted. Stabilizing speculation under flexible exchange rates. Speculation is more likely to be destabilizing under a flexible than under a fixed exchange rate system. With destabilizing speculation, speculators purchase a foreign currency when the exchange rate is rising, in the expectation that the exchange rate will rise even more, and sell the foreign currency when the exchange rate is falling, in the expectation that the exchange rate will fall even more. In the process, the fluctuations in exchange rates resulting from business cycles are amplified, and so are the uncertainty and risks involved in international transactions. Price discipline under flexible exchange rates. Fixed exchange rates impose a price discipline on the nation not present under flexible exchange rates. Anchor argument. That is, a nation with a higher rate of inflation than the rest of the world is likely to face persistent deficits in its balance of payments and loss of reserves under a fixed exchange rate system. Since deficits and reserve losses cannot go on forever, the nation needs to restrain its excessive rate of inflation, and thus faces some price discipline. Flexible exchange rates do seem more inflationary than fixed exchange rates. A depreciation, inflexible system, of a nation's currency increases domestic prices. An appreciation does not result in a reduction in prices. The impossible trilemma, also known as the N-1 problem of fixed exchange rate. Refer to the diagram in the slide. The trilemma states that a country may simultaneously choose any two, but not all the following three policy goals. 1. Monetary independence. 2. Exchange rate stability, fixed exchange rate, and 3. Financial integration, free flow of capital. It can be represented by a triangle with each side or pinnacle being one of the choices as in diagram. The side a combination of giving up monetary independence is associated with exchange rate stability, a pegged exchange rate regime, and financial integration, but no monetary independence. This is the preferred choice of the countries forming the Euro bloc, which is a currency union. Argentina during the 90s and Hong Kong, which both chose a currency board exchange rate regime, and the Bretton Woods system. The floating exchange rate regime, side B, is associated with monetary independence and financial integration, free flow of capital. This is the preferred choice of the United States during the last 3 decades. The closed financial markets, side C, is associated with monetary policy autonomy and a fixed exchange rate regime, but it represents financial autarky. This is the preferred choice of most developing countries in the mid to late 1980s. An example is China, who pegged its yuan to USD from 1994 to 2005, and Malaysia's ringgit pegged during Asian crisis 1997-98. 4. Combination C. Without capital control, free flow of capital will pressure the fixed exchange rate due to misalignment of monetary policy, especially the interest rate. It may also cause a so-called N-1 problem of conflict of interest, if different direction of monetary policy is sought for different countries in the peg system. If free flow of capital or financial integration is chosen, country need to let go either fixed exchange rate, to choose free float, as in option B, or follow monetary policy of leader country in the peg system as in option A. Explaining the Bretton Woods system collapse. Using the impossible trilemma framework. Refer to the diagram. In Bretton Woods system, United States maintained the price of gold fixed at $35 per ounce, and ready to exchange dollar for gold at that price. Other countries fixed their currency to the dollar. Bretton Woods chooses the side a combination of free flow of capital and exchange rate stability, which is a pegged exchange rate regime. Thus, member countries gave up monetary independence to follow leader United States monetary policy. During the time of collapse, United States were having threat of recession, and implemented expansionary monetary policy. The rest of the member countries mostly having inflationary problem, hence created a conflict of interest in following the leader, United States, policy. Member let go fixed exchange rate system, which implied the Bretton Woods collapse, for sovereign monetary policy. Explaining the European monetary system collapse. Using the impossible trilemma framework. Refer to the diagram. Germany is the dominant economy in European monetary system. Germany economy was booming and inflationary. Thus, their policy objective is to increase interest rate or reduce money supply, contractionary monetary policy. Overall, of the rest of European economies is facing recession threat and deflationary. Their policy objective is to reduce interest rate or increase money supply. Thus, conflict of interest between Germany and other European countries arise. Violation of this theorem of impossible trilemma framework. This theorem can be violated with large amount of foreign reserve. which also known as foreign reserve hoarding. This enables the government to intervene in foreign exchange to stabilize the exchange rate. For example, if the fixed exchange rate is having pressures to increase, the big amount of reserve can soak up these pressures to maintain stability. Besides reserve hoarding, a deeper use of swap lines and international reserves pooling arrangements, as well as channeling reserves into potentially higher yielding, but riskier assets, such as those managed by sovereign wealth funds, also yield similar impact. These examples of alternative also can boost the country foreign reserve by different liquidity level and timing needed to counter adverse pressure on the fixed exchange rate. Foreign reserve hoarding. The trend of reserve hoarding was observed in the 90s. 3 motivations for engaging in reserve hoarding. The first factor is the fear of floating, manifested in the desire to tightly manage the exchange rate or to keep fixing it. The desire to stabilize the exchange rate reflects a hybrid of factors, namely, to boost trade, to mitigate destabilizing balance sheet shocks in the presence of dollarized liabilities, to provide a transparent nominal anchor used to stabilize inflationary expectations, and others. The second factor is the adoption of active policies to develop and increase the depth of domestic financial intermediation through a larger domestic banking and financial system relative to GDP. Financially open and financially deep countries, with greater exchange rate stability, tend to hold more reserves. Third factor is complementing the deepening of domestic financial intermediation with an increase in the financial integration of the developing country with international financial markets. Prior to the financial integration, the demand for reserves provided self-insurance against volatile trade flows. However, financial integration of developing countries also added the need to self-insure against volatile financial flows.